Good morning. Welcome to Surreal Estate. I'm Liz Min.
And this is Val Vandervoort. Thank you for joining us.
Together
Um,
again.
yes. Well, it has been quite the week out there in real estate locally. We participated in multiple offer situations where one had over 20 offers. It was kind of 21, 22, we're not exactly sure, and one that had 15 offers. And the ultimate sale price went to jaw-dropping numbers on those
That was
homes.
really a crazy one.
Yeah.
I'm still kind of marveling at what happened there.
Yeah.
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 And it was also I thought interesting too that the initial expectation of how many offers there were going to be, was very different from what that final number was.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it honestly, it wouldn't have changed my behavior and my participation of it, you know, but it's kind of jarring.
Yeah, yeah. I have to say it may have changed mine. But I think the thing that's interesting is those ones going to places that you sit there and scratch your head about how they're going to appraise. And those people have got to be putting a huge amount, well, the ability to put a huge amount down because they have to believe they won't be able to appraise.
Yeah, yeah,
That's the reality of this market right now, right? Is that the comps are not telling us very much. Or they're very much so just a starting spot, right? And
yeah,
then it's
yeah.
like they go from there. And you may have, the appraisers just probably don't have the data to be able to make an appraise.
They don't have it. Yeah. And that's the interesting thing is that you have to have a buyer who really understands what's going on because in the past be able to say, well, look at this comp and this is how I'm justifying what I'm suggesting to you. And so it's really more and more important, right, that your buyer knows that you have your finger on this market and that you know where things are going to go. And it's not necessarily just about the number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And can just take a leap of faith, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's what it takes at this point to win a home, as they
It
say.
does. It
Yeah.
does. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. However, last night we did prevail in a multiple offer situation. It had a lowly 6 offers, which is still quite a few offers to be, competing against. Back in
Yeah.
the day, that was kind of a normal number for multiple offer situations, right?
Yeah. That's what feels like a more normal number for multiple offer situations, not,
Yeah. Yeah.
high tens into the 20s. So was there anything that you took from the previous situation this week that helped you guide and your buyer and help them prevail on this one last night?
Honestly, I think last night it was so refreshing that it wasn't just about the number, as I, as it is when you have 10 to 20 offers. It was one where I could really concentrate on building that trust and relationships
Hmm.
with the agents and everybody involved. And that's why I love this business, right? Like I love the relationship building, and that's what feeds me, in
Yeah.
this business.
Well, that's interesting to think about all of that. And probably the first time that I've fully processed kind of the difference if you're under 10 offers in a situation versus over 10 offers in a situation. One of the things is that the listing agent could very well be so overwhelmed by the amount of interest that they don't have time to interact with you and, I don't know if I want to say, but help guide you or whatever. Just communicate as much as openly as possible to help kind of give guidance or information in the situation that can help a buyer who's wanting to do what they need to do to win it, right?
Yeah, for sure, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it was very refreshing. Totally enjoyed the
Yeah.
process.
Right. Yeah. And again, right, and we talk about that a lot in our conversations about how relationships in real estate have a huge impact on uh, transactions that oftentimes buyers aren't aware of. And then you've got those ones with just such high numbers. It doesn't matter so much what the relationships are. You just have to have an outrageous number to win it. That's all that it is in that situation, pretty much.
Yeah.
Um, so let's take a look at some graphs um, that I was pulling up for this to kind of talk about where the market is. Um, so Liz, you want to
Yeah.
give
So
some
this
info on this
graph
one?
is Yeah, the average price from our broader MLS, so it's based on almost 2 million sales. And you can see here how it,
Actually, it's about 1.2 million.
oh, sorry. Thank you.
Yep.
Uh, you can see how it took off mid 2020 at a much higher trajectory than it had before.
Yeah. And you can see here down here in the raw numbers. I'll scroll down here so you can see the bigger picture. That February and March had an average price point that was above $1 million. And if you look all the way back in here, there's never been another time where it was above $1 million.
Yeah.
So this helps give data to our feeling that our market is in new territory and new highs.
For sure. Yeah.
Okay, now let's look at the one that just was for San Carlos over the last 5 years. So it's interesting, not as kind of quite the jump up in that previous one.
Yeah. Yeah. So note in this one that we switched to the median sale price in order to eliminate the weight that an outstanding sale in San Carlos that would really tweak the average. So, we don't always have, the $4 and $6 million sales. But when those come in, then that obviously skews the data quite because of our low inventory numbers. But anyway, we saw new highs in the first half of 2018, and then it gets somewhat repeated in 2019. The second half of those years having lower median prices.
Okay. And then the beginning of 2020 was, you look at it, not quite as strong as 2018 and 2019, which was not necessarily surprising. But then, of course, the pandemic was surprising. It took a quick dip down here. And you talk about V-shaped recoveries, right? Like this is that V-shaped recovery that we were hoping we would see. Maybe this is a little more crazy than we wanted it to be. And then the median price continued to be strong throughout the remainder of 2020, which is different from the cycles that we see in previous years.
And yeah, I mean, after that dip that we had, we've been rising really strongly since June. We've been over 2 million, which we haven't seen before. I really want to revisit this next month too, as I think we'll see really strong growth again, given what we're seeing in these crazy offer situations.
Yeah. And this is really grabs my attention is how the beginning of 2021, we've had median prices above 2 million every month. And we've never had that before. Not to say that there weren't previous months that had higher medians, but we think, right, that that April is going to have the closings that are from these offer situations this week that will make this probably a new high. We've got to imagine that it would be.
Yeah, and I think it'll, we'll continue to see, that over $2 million and more rising towards, at least through summer. Yeah.
I think we're really processing this week in particular that we are at in new territory and new highs, and that buyers out there have to be prepared for being super competitive, probably being uncomfortable in what they're offering in order to secure properties.
Yeah. It's a brand new world out there. But the experience that I'm having with buyers is that they are accepting this reality. It's not one where I'm having a huge amount of trouble letting people know what's going on, because there's so much evidence I can share, with offer situations and, just getting them to understand what's going on. And the buyers are really motivated, and I'm not alone in being the agent who has motivated buyers, obviously. Right.
Yeah. That people want to get into homes right now more than ever, and good interest rates. And so they're doing, and great stock portfolios, right, as another piece that we
that's another big piece of it.
Yeah. So yeah, I think, and the reality is, right, is that yes, it feels crazy right now, but this would be one of those things that we're going to look back in 5 years and say, oh my God, to have a median price of just above the 2 million mark. How nice is that? I mean, it makes you kind of feels crass to talk about, but that's what we tend to see over and over again. Feels crazy right now, but in the future it won't be, and we will wish we would have bought a couple at this time.
I know.
So,
Well, let's find something to buy.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, there are some out there. The one on
Yeah,
Laurel, that's zoned commercial. I'm like, wouldn't that be a fun office space?
right? I
Yeah,
could go for that. That's
right,
still walkable.
right, even closer. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. We really appreciate having you, and we're always here to help buyers and sellers navigate this market. So please reach out if we can help you. I'm Val Vandervoort of Veritas Homes.
I'm Liz Min. Have a fabulous weekend.
Yeah, happy Easter.
Yeah, happy Easter. That's right.
Yeah. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.